Fam, what's going on? Do you know what's the primary ingredient, the first thing you need to all successful manifestations? Have you ever wondered how you can get your manifestations going on the right foot so that the rest of the process is seamless and easy? In this video, I'm gonna share with you exactly what I've discovered in my own life and in the lives of thousands and hundreds of thousands of other people who've come before me. One of the things that I recognize that many people are desiring to have in their life, they're desiring to have it easy, right? We all want an easy life. A lot of people want a cushy life. They want a soft life. They don't want any effort. They don't want any hard work. I'm here to tell you, unfortunately, that is going to take work, right? You are going to have to work toward anything that you desire to have in one way or another, right? It's true that in the universe, nothing is free. You're going to expend something somewhere along the line. But what I want to teach you is how to expend your infinite resource, right? Your infinite energy. How can you tap into it so that you use that instead of your muscles and just be tired all the time, right? Okay, here we go. So the first ingredient that you need to make sure that all your manifestations, all your creations get off on the right foot and will be smooth and as painless as possible along the process is imagination. You need to have the vision before you can get to the destination. I tell my kids all the time that if you can see it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. Now, I didn't write that, but it's dope. It's true, right? The moment we can conceive of a thing here, it's already created out in the world. Here's where the work comes in, right? We have to create the vision and then move toward it. I said in yesterday's video that we have to move through time and space toward our destination, right? Because thinking that we can conceive of an idea, like envisioning, visualization, going to work in meditation in our imagination, and thinking that that's going to do all the creating for us is like getting in your car, turning on the GPS, and then just sitting there. You can turn on the GPS, you can put in the destination, but unless you throw the car in drive, right? You can buy the plane ticket, but unless you actually go to the airport and get on the plane, unless you actually get on the train or the bus, the vehicle that will transport you through time and space to where you're going, unless you do that, then you should have just saved your money and stayed home. Well, you did stay home. That's why you're not going where you want to. But the big idea here is the fact that the imagination is the preview, right? It's sort of the editing room for reality. Unfortunately, a lot of people are allowing their external world, right, the world around them, to dictate their imagination instead of allowing the imagination to create and dictate what's occurring in reality. Because I don't know if you've discovered this in your own life yet, but nothing in your reality has any meaning apart from what you give it. Everything outside of you just is. What makes it real are the stories that you tell about it. It's the emotional attachment that you put to it. So if we can control our imaginations, control our attention, and we'll talk about that in the next video. If we can do that, then this whole creation process gets that much easier and that much sweeter. So how do we begin to create this way, right? What is it that needs to be done first? Well, the first thing that we need is a clear and definite end goal. This was one of the things that I sort of struggled with in my life. It's like having all these desires, right? I'd have these goals, but they were super general, right? Like, okay, I want a job that pays well enough for me to feed my family. It's specific and not, right? It sort of eliminates a lot of jobs, and at the same time, it's not specific. Like, I remember years ago, my wife and I, we had just gotten married, and we were talking about what sort of jobs we wanted to have in the future. And I said, I don't care what I'm doing as long as I'm helping people. How many different helping professions are there on the planet? So although it led me into law enforcement, which was, has been a great career, and the opportunities that have come from that experience have been super beneficial. The fact of the matter is it wasn't specific enough. Because if you would ask me, it's like, oh, would you rather be a law enforcement officer or a life coach and a speaker? I would have taken the coach and the speaker route from day one. But I wasn't specific enough, and so I had to take a different route for almost 10 years until I came to the realization like, oh, I want to help, and this is where I want to be. So unless you get clear on what it is you say you want, you can't expect the universe to actually deliver to you what you want with any specificity. Because again, it's reading you, it's reading your thought, it's reading your emotion, right? You get to write the script. Nothing in life is handed to you. You get what you accept, you get what you tolerate. And so if you're tolerating vagueness and non-specificity within yourself, don't be surprised when that's exactly what the universe delivers up to you. Granted, it may be along the lines of something you may want, right? But the universe doesn't miss. If something's off, we're the ones who are off. So the next thing, right, after you get clear in your mind about what it is you're calling in, once you get clear about what it is you're creating, the next thing is to make sure that when you go to work in your imagination that you're doing it in the present. Don't create it as if it's off in the future or I'm going to get there one day. Because as long as in your imagination it's one day, it's going to continue in reality to be one day. It'll never be here. And I can't really articulate how powerful this is within this process. Like it's really one of the linchpins to it all, because the universe only recognizes one time frame. The universe doesn't recognize the past and it doesn't recognize the future. It only always acknowledges the now. So if you can get into a clear picture in your imagination and feel it as though it's right now, right? Then in the mind of the universe, that's where you are in that moment. Although you'll open your eyes and nothing will appear to have changed, what begins to happen is that the universe, in conjunction with your higher self and your subconscious mind, are going to work orchestrating and creating situations and circumstances to now join these two worlds, right? It's the world you currently inhabit and the world you've created. Because you can't be in two places at one time. We just don't possess that capability, right? So anytime we go into our meditation and we're creating within our minds, it always needs to be now, not later, not one day I'll get here, or once I have enough money, I'll invest in this, or once I'm able to do that, or when I leave this relationship, this, or once the kids leave home, that. It always has to be right now. And you're envisioning, right? Everything has to be in the present moment. Otherwise, you're going to continue to push it away from you as you chase it. As you are pursuing it, it will run away from you, because you're saying to universe, I can't wait until I have. And so the one thing you end up with is more, I can't wait until I end up with. Right? You always end up with more, I can't wait until I have. The universe doesn't recognize you as having it right now. So that's the easiest way to bring it to you immediately. And the last thing on working with the imagination is to make sure that you feel it, right? And it's not what I've discovered is that it's not an over emotional, super hyper, like exuberant type of joy. Because in life, like, yes, you feel it at times, but a lot of the things we're creating will be part of our everyday life. And so when it's normal for you to receive 5, 10, 20, 30, $40,000 checks regularly, like weekly, almost daily sometimes, when that is your norm, you're not gonna be jumping, oh goody, I did it, I got a check, You're not gonna do all that, right? It's gonna be, oh, I got a check, thank you, right? Like, oh, another one came in, thank you, right? The primary emotion, the primary feeling that we feel in those moments, if you're unaware, is gratitude. It's peace, right? You get a notification on the phone, somebody visited your online store, somebody purchased some of your services. Like, oh, such and such bank deposited $57,000 in your account. Like, oh, awesome, right? Because when we're living in a state of lack, we believe that what we're when we're living in a state of lack, we believe that what we're creating will somehow add to our life. We believe that we don't have it now, and what ends up happening, again, we end up pushing it away from us. But when we can get clear, get present, and actually feel that gratitude, when we can feel that peace presently, everything else takes care of itself. Again, immediately, the universe, your higher mind, your subconscious mind, your higher self, they all go to work bringing the two worlds together, because you can't be in two places at one time. You're either in the one reality where you don't have a thing, or you're moving into, or you're already inhabiting that world where your desire is a completed thing. All right. Apparently the weather didn't want me outside right now. So I had to make a quick transition. And here we are. So once you get clear in your creation, right, you can feel it, it's present. What you want to begin to focus on in your life is this fact that your imagination has been hijacked. You may or may not realize it up to now, but as you begin to do this work, you might notice that you don't have the control that you think that you should have, or even that you could have. And that's due to a couple of reasons. And so what you want to do to unhijack your mind, right, to unhijack your imagination, and begin to take it back is a couple of things. One, stop watching the news. Just cut out the news. Social media, if it's not feeding you, right, if it's not being beneficial, cut it out. Because what happens is these stories, these images, these pictures, they get enlarged. They find a place and they hook on inside of our minds. And you'll find yourself moving about the world, having thoughts and feelings that you really don't know where they're coming from. You don't know what sparked them. And although it may not be anything totally detrimental, it's still not beneficial to you and where you're going. So a very easy rule of thumb is that if it's not moving you towards your destination, it really doesn't belong in your life. And you shouldn't feel any sort of way about cutting it out, because you know the type of things that you need to have in your life that will add to it. Like, this is the difference between positive and negative, or how I define it. Positive moves you toward where you want to be. Negative moves you away. And for that reason, a lot of the news, a lot of the stuff on our social media feeds are negative. Another thing that hijacks our imaginations are our fears. What are you afraid of that holds you back? Because you'll recognize that inside of the fears, there are stories. And those stories don't necessarily revolve around others as much as it revolves around you and your capabilities and what's available to you, what you're worthy of, what you can and can't do, right? What would be right for you to do? What would be wrong for you to do? By questioning your fears, questioning their validity, right? Questioning their source, you get to uncover aspects of yourself that you may not have known were there. And the more clear you are on who you are and what you're about, the easier it is to move forward when spirit drops in those inspirations and those nudges that lead you in the direction of your clear vision. The last thing I would say that you can do to unhijack your mind is just to get into silence. Get in silence and allow your higher self, allow spirit to speak, right? Cut off the music, cut off the TV, get off of Netflix, log out of Facebook, get off of Instagram, all that. Hear what the present moment has to say. It's in that silence where the mess that's inside gets brought up. It's in the silence that we begin to learn what our voice sounds like, what our heart sounds like, versus what our parents, or our preachers, or teachers, principals, other whoever, right? All these other voices that have imprinted and impacted us in our life. We'll learn to distinguish between what's real for us and what's a should and ought, or something else, something that somebody else told us we need to be doing. The last point I want to make here really quickly is that we need to understand how reality is operating. People get up in a tussy sometimes, right? They get their panties in a bunch. Anytime somebody mentions reality creation, they say, "Oh, you can't create your reality. Reality just is, and da da da. And you live in reality, and all this stuff," right? Failing to realize that there's more to know than all that they know. So here's what I've learned. Here's what I've come to understand. And I'm not the first one to discover this. Thousands of others, right? Ascended master after ascended master throughout time immemorial has told us similar things. And that is that our world is what's responding to us. Even Jesus said on one occasion, "Don't fear the world, for I have overcome the world." And what did he do soon thereafter? He was dead, and then he got up. You don't beat reality more than that, than rising from the dead. I mean, show me a better example. I'll wait. So we have to understand that what we're seeing out in our world is a reflection of our inner world. If we're dealing with, difficult people at work, then we need to examine ourselves and find where the difficulty lies within us. Not saying that, people are just absolved from, their a-hole qualities. I'm not saying that. I mean, sometimes you just need to separate from mean people, right? From people who don't have your best interests in mind. Separate yourself, right? But ultimately, what you are putting out into the world is what it's reflecting back to. Your perception of a thing becomes that thing. And so actually, I like to say that there are no a-holes in the world. If there's an a-hole out in the world, it's in your seat. Because that perception had to come through you in order to see it over there somewhere. And so when we're creating our realities, this is why it's best to always keep the highest state of vibration possible. No matter what occurs, look to see how it benefits you. Look to see what it's teaching you. Because you can see something like that in every situation. It doesn't matter what it is. There's a lesson, there's a benefit. This doesn't mean that you have to be all giddy and believe that, oh, everything's sunshine and rainbows. It doesn't have to be any of that. What you do have to do, though, is maintain that upward gaze, right? Because if you begin to spiral downward, you're just going to find more stuff to spiral out about. But give the attention to what you want to have in life. Give attention to those positive vibrations, and you'll create more of it.